Hello and welcome to today's Halloween edition of my Retro Media Room. We're going to take a look at 5 games that are perfect for the Halloween season. Enter if you dare.
Hey, what are you laying around the job for? I paid you to narrate this thing, and here you are. And he's dead. Okay, that's just great. Now I gotta narrate the whole thing myself. Thanks a lot, buddy. Next time I gotta check their medical history.
Beginning our list is 1997's Nightmare Creatures, developed by Callisto Entertainment and published by Activision. Released on the day of Halloween in 1997, Nightmare Creatures is a gothic horror game, and it was actually the first PlayStation 1 game I ever owned, when I first picked up my PlayStation 1 in November of 97. Nightmare Creatures has always been one of my favorite games to play during the Halloween season since I was a kid. The music, the sound effects, the atmosphere, the gothic visuals, zombies, werewolves, you name it, this screams Halloween. Not only that, but this is a fun game. The visuals here are very solid for the PlayStation 1, fully 3D environments and character models. The sound design here is truly top-notch for the time. You have 2 different characters to choose from. You have Ignatius with his staff, who's a little bit slower and harder hitting. Then you have Nadia with her sword, who I tend to prefer a touch more because she's a little bit more nimble and I think her combos are a little bit better. You can't go wrong either way though, both are solid. It comes down to preference. There's actually quite a moveset here. Aside from your basic weapon attacks and kicks, when you combine the 2 you have various combos, jumping attacks, slashing attacks, and the slashing attacks are important for zombies. If you just do standard combos on zombies, you knock them down, they get back up. Whereas if you do slashing attacks, whether it be with kicks or your weapon, you'll actually cut them in half, which will actually kill them. And it's a one-hit kill on zombies when you do a slashing attack, so you're going to use it often. In addition to your attacks, you have various items you're able to use, including healing items and one-shot flint guns, which are actually quite good. Whether it be blowing up barrels or blowing off enemies' heads in a pinch, there's all sorts of ways you're able to use items and change your strategy. I just can't say enough how great the sound effects are. The monster effects, the music, the ambience, everything here sounds fantastic. While this may feel a little rough around the edges with some of the movement and hit detection, once you get used to it, it's absolutely worth it. This atmosphere is just to die for. It really does put you in the middle of a gothic horror setting. One of my only real gripes about the game that the bosses are particularly tough and not that fun to deal with. But in terms of roaming the levels, fighting enemies, exploring, there's secrets to find and items, it's really enjoyable to go around killing all the enemies, finding all the items to stock up on, to help you with your future battles, especially those boss battles. I've enjoyed Nightmare Creatures for many years. It's always been a tradition of mine to play it on Halloween, and hopefully you make it yours too. It's a lot of fun. Check out Nightmare Creatures. Next up, we have 1998's Medieval, developed by SCE Studio Cambridge and published by Sony. Here we have another PlayStation 1 classic that's actually a kid-friendly addition to the list. Pumpkins, graveyards, zombies, down to the colors, this game screams Halloween season. While I captured Nightmare Creatures on my PlayStation 3 with the physical disc, that looks more like you remember it. Medieval, on the other hand, this is the PlayStation 5 digital edition. While it's not a remake of the game, but it does have significant upgrades. Enhanced visuals, added trophies, and other features, which is what they've done to all these PlayStation 1 re-releases on PlayStation 5. Medieval is a hack-and-slash platformer. While a lot of platformers just have a point A to point B design and you're done, this one actually has quite a bit of complexity in the level design. Secret items and pathways, you actually have things to backtrack for. You have multiple weapons and items you're able to use to take out enemies. Tons of personality in the characters and dialogue. This is a very charming and fun game. And this does hold up quite well. But if you want a more modern take on the game, Other Ocean Emeryville did remake it in Unreal Engine 4 back in 2019 on the PlayStation 4. While it did have some mixed reactions at the time from fans, I actually quite enjoyed firing this up. While I can see a little bit of the personality may have been lost in translation, the combat feels quite a bit different. But overall, this is a solid remake. Massively overhauled visuals, it looks really great, with nice colors and detail. It's very faithful to the original with all the original dialogue and voice acting. So honestly, you can't go wrong either way. If you're nostalgic for the original, play the PlayStation 5 digital version. Either way, if you want to celebrate the Halloween spirit with the younger audience, you can't go wrong with Medieval. It's a lot of fun, you'll have a good time. Up next, we have Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare, developed by Rockstar San Diego and published by Rockstar Games. The version I captured here is the PlayStation 4 edition on my PlayStation 5, which automatically includes Undead Nightmare. What's really nice about this edition is able to run in 60 FPS, and runs at a locked 60 FPS on the PlayStation 5, so it's a really nice way to play on consoles. Undead Nightmare is actually a DLC released for Red Dead Redemption in 2010, and is easily one of the greatest DLCs ever created. It's so good it could just be its own standalone game. Within the horror genre, I've been a huge fan of zombies for many years. It all started with playing Resident Evil back on the PlayStation 1, then eventually watching Night of the Living Dead from George A. Romero, and then Dawn of the Dead, which is my favorite zombie movie of all time. Being such a big fan of zombies, I'm always on the lookout for that next game to scratch that zombie itch that I really don't find very often, but Undead Nightmare is one of the very few. So Undead Nightmare is a non-canon version of Red Dead Redemption, where the dead are coming back to life, and John Marston finds himself in a situation where his wife and son have now become zombies themselves. So John then sets out to find a cure for them. Right off the bat, you have access to the entire map of Red Dead Redemption, with side missions and main quests. The main quests are to move the story along, with John Marston trying to find that cure, or just figure out what's going on in the first place. All the character interactions and dialogue, it's very tongue-in-cheek, there's a lot here, it's really incredible what they did as a mere expansion. The side missions are a lot of fun. They range from defending towns from hordes of zombies to earn new weapons and ammo, hunting down mythological creatures such as the Chupacabra and Sasquatch, as well as fulfilling tasks to unlock the 4 horses of the apocalypse, all of which are able to ride and have their own abilities. There's a ton of stuff to do here. While they could have just simply thrown zombies into the game and made it fun, they also altered the map quite a bit. The lighting, the atmosphere, ambience, and soundtrack, all of it looks and sounds much more like a horror film. And it's really cool, and it's perfect for Halloween. While it's really disappointing that they never did a part 2 within Red Dead Redemption 2, at least we have this game. So if you want to have fun with zombies and great atmosphere that's perfect for Halloween, you can't go wrong with Undead Nightmare. It's a blast, I highly recommend you check it out. Next on our list, we have the 2020 game Visage, developed and released by Sad Square Studio. Heavily inspired by the famously cancelled Silent Hill's playable teaser, otherwise known as PT. That demo was and still is the scariest demo ever released to date. After Konami famously canceled Silent Hills, it left a void that developers wanted to fill, and I think Visage is one of the best at trying to fill that void. This crowdfunded indie game really is a good effort at trying to do that. Beautiful use of Unreal Engine 4, the photorealistic environments look great, easily one of the best looking indie games I've ever played. But I really don't want to spoil too much here because you really need to go into this game as blind as possible to fully experience it. All I can tell you is it's well done, it's super eerie, it's very scary, it's beautiful, and it's easily one of the best indie horror games I've come across. So if you're a big fan of that PT demo and you want a similar experience, check out Visage, it's worth giving a shot. And finally, we have 2004's Silent Hill 4: The Room, developed by Team Silent and released by Konami. What a lot of you may not know is that in the first Silent Hill on PlayStation 1, after you clear the game once, you unlock a first-person view in the extra options menu, which was terrifying at the time and actually very impressive. While that was merely an extra option in the first game, Silent Hill 4 was the first in the series to take it as a primary mechanic. Now, it isn't entirely in first-person perspective. A large portion of the game is also in third person. Anytime you're outside of the apartment, that's when the third person perspective kicks in. Otherwise, as long as you're in your apartment, you're in the first person perspective. And that's where you wake up as Henry Townsend, who after having recent nightmares soon realizes he's trapped in his apartment, and doesn't understand why and is trying to figure out how to leave. Soon a mysterious hole in the wall develops that Henry takes a chance and travels into, out of a desperate attempt to escape. But is it actually outside? Is it another dimension? Well, we'll have to find out in the story. Periodically, you go to these other areas and then you come back to the room in order to heal and save. And that's where things get really interesting. This game is genuinely creepy and it has some awesome scares. You don't know when they're coming, you don't know what's going to happen. But what I love about the apartment or the room, it's like a slow descent into madness. I'm not going to spoil a lot here, but there's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on. So it really behooves you to check everything each and every time you go in the apartment. There's all sorts of details and nuggets and ways to progress the story and see what's going on and for things to just happen. That's the meat and potatoes of the game, honestly, is everything that happens in the apartment. Now, not to say it's not scary in the outside world, or other dimensions for that matter, but the game is far from perfect. While it's a diamond in the rough, it really is a chore to get through some of these things. The combat is pretty bad. I highly advise you play it on easy to make it more tolerable. While enemies like the floating ghosts are eerie, they get a little bit repetitive and annoying because you cannot kill them, you can only down them. And they're able to hurt you from range, almost like fear is killing you. There's also a lot of backtracking, some questionable level design. This game has some pretty deep flaws, but it's absolutely worth playing for all of the apartment segments alone. It really is like an apartment of horrors, and it's absolutely worth getting through the chores of some of the other gameplay elements to experience those scares, as well as some interesting characters. The atmosphere, the scares, the soundtrack, the themes, there's a lot going on here that's very interesting. You just have to get through some of the rough gameplay. So Silent Hill 4: The Room, definitely worth checking out if you're both a Silent Hill fan or you just want some genuine scares that maybe you haven't played before. So that was 5 games that are perfect for Halloween. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to support the channel further, please give us super thanks. That would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching, and happy Halloween.